My name is Carla Stokes and I'm a tenor saxophonist, clarinetist, music teacher and arranger and composer from Cape Town, and I'm here to give you a few tips on saxophone. This is mainly aimed at sort of beginner or intermediate players. So at the beginning of the video you heard me holding a G, a middle G above the stave, which is a concert F, and I was practicing my long tones. Wasn't too long, but that's the kind of thing that if you are just starting saxophone, you really want to prioritize. You really want to do long tones as a warm-up exercise before you start practicing anything else like your pieces or your scales. Long tones are pretty self-explanatory, holding notes for a long time. And you can start on any note really, doesn't matter. It's more about just focusing on keeping the pitch nice and steady, so no wobbly pitches going out of tune. You can start on a middle G, which is here, middle G, and you can go up in tones or semitones depending on what you feel like. If you're going up in semitones, you're going to go G, G sharp A, A sharp B, C, C sharp, and you can just keep going. It's really good to start in the mid-range of your saxophone though, because very low notes are not great when you're just warming up, neither are high notes, so definitely keep it mid-range. Long tones are something that I wish I had practiced more of when I was in school, in high school. If you are a more advanced player in high school or even in college and you're wanting to play around with your sound, a good idea would be to check out some different types of mouthpieces. This is a Jody Jazz HR. I also own the Jody Jazz Jet mouthpiece, which are both hard rubber. You can also try out a metal mouthpiece, as well as ligatures and reeds. Of course, reeds are one of those things where they are always a little bit temperamental, but if you find a brand that really works for you, and that works with the type of mouthpiece you've chosen, as well as the ligature, you can really get, you know, a great sound from just your setup. And then of course you need to work on it technically, but if you have good gear, it really makes a difference with your saxophone sound. You know, it's a good idea to listen to an extensive list of the greats as well as some modern players to find out what kind of sound your ear leans to. Maybe you like a darker sound, or maybe you like a warmer, brighter sound. It all really depends on your ear and who you listen to. If you are more of an intermediate sax player or in your early college days, you might be overwhelmed with learning a bunch of standards, and you might think, oh my gosh, how am I going to do this and learn a standard by memory, right? It's still something that I struggle with today, and it's something that I constantly have to work on. It's not easy, but what does help is listening. So definitely listening as much as possible to the song. Standard Blue Bossa, you know, listen to Dexter Gordon's version of Blue Bossa, listen to Kenny Dorham's version of Blue Bossa, and just listen, you know, to a variety of players. Doesn't all have to be sax players, can be a pianist or even a vocalist. Sometimes I find listening to a vocal version of a tune is extremely useful because I can really hear where the lyrics sit. And ultimately, at the end of the day, you want to be able to sing through your instrument. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to make our instrument sing. And so listening to a vocal version is extremely useful. And that is also what improves your sound, is by imitating a certain sax player and transcribing a solo of his and really just trying to emulate that sound 100%. As a sax player, and rather as a horn player, you will often find yourself playing the melody in a band or whatever setting you're in, especially if there's no vocalist. Even if there is a vocalist, most of the time you might have to add to the melody, help embellish or echo what the singer has sung, and take a short solo, be it in a big band, a quartet, or any other kind of ensemble or band, for any event really. And so you've got to know the melody well, and you've got to know the tune well. You've got to know the chords, what's coming next, what you should play over it, and what it sounds like ultimately before rehearsing with your band. So what I like to do for certain standards that I find tricky, especially when arpeggiating and getting to know the chord changes is to also play it on piano. I just like to outline the chords on piano so that I get that sound in my head, and then I will play it on saxophone as well to get it under my fingers. And simply just arpeggiating, let's just say a 2-5-1 in the key of C. Arpeggiating something as simple like that and really getting it under your fingers helps a lot, because if you're stuck for ideas when soloing, you can always go back to arpeggiating and even pivoting. So going from the 7th down, or from the 5th, or from the 3rd. Some really great YouTube channels that I also use just to improve, to refresh my own mind and knowledge on certain things that I should also be practicing, is a really great channel called Chad LB, which is Chad LEFKOWITZ Brown. He is a fantastic YouTuber. If you just search for Chad LB on YouTube, you should find his whole channel, and he's got some amazing things on improvisation in there that are extremely useful. He is kind of more for your intermediate to advanced sax players, so if you're not there yet, that's okay. You can check out another YouTube channel which I really like and which I recommend to my students, called Better Sax. And this guy has stuff spanning from beginner level, how to clean your saxophone, reeds, how to practice scales, all sorts of beginner videos leading into intermediate as well as advanced as well. So keeping time. So when you're playing a standard, obviously the trickiest thing is to stay in time and to remember where you are in the form. This really helps when you're playing with a bass player, a drummer, or a pianist. But ultimately, you have got to have good time yourself, because time is all about working together and being a unit, as in you and your band members. So to practice this, I would suggest using a metronome. Practicing with a backing track is great, and if you have iReal Pro or any Aebersold backing tracks, you can even use YouTube if you don't have those, then that's also a great start. But ultimately a metronome is your best bet, because you are really focusing on keeping time yourself and not relying on anything else. Make sure that the first beat of the bar is accented on your metronome so that you really know if you're staying in time or not. If you are a clarinet player or flautist and also play saxophone, you are very lucky, because chances are you might find yourself playing in a big band or a jazz band, be it at school or at college if you are a music student. You are very lucky, because as a clarinet player myself, I have definitely doubled on clarinet in a few big bands, and I think one of the reasons that I was placed in one of the big bands was because I could play clarinet. So if you do play clarinet or flute, try to keep it up. It's really valuable and you won't be sorry. As a saxophone player, sound is definitely one of the most important assets in your playing. So I would spend a lot of time developing and practicing sound exercises, long tone exercises, playing around with gear if you can, and that all makes the language and lines and licks that you use sound so much better when you sound good. But what will really make you stand out as a sax player is if you have a really good tone, a really unique sound that people like, you like, and that people want to book you for. So I would really focus on sound as well as transcribing the grades. Whoever you are drawn to, whatever your ear is drawn to, practice that. That is telling you something. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Carla Stokes. I'm a freelance musician and music teacher, and I hope you've enjoyed.